The young and the restless spoilers. Tracy's innate wisdom had always been her shield, a quiet strength that had saved her more times than she cared to remember. That fateful night, as a storm raged outside mirroring the turmoil in her heart, it was her quick thinking that pulled her back from the brink of disaster. A single phone call had set in motion a chain of events that would unravel long-held secrets and force hidden identities into the unforgiving light of truth. Earlier that evening, Tracy had sensed that something was amiss. A creeping dread had whispered in the back of her mind, warning her of impending danger. Trusting her instincts, she discreetly reached out to Jack, a longtime friend and someone who had proven to be a reliable ally over the years. With measured words and hushed urgency, she explained her concerns without revealing every detail, hoping that Jack's presence would ward off whatever sinister plans were in play. Jack, whose life had been a tapestry of intertwined loyalties and betrayals, wasted no time. He knew that when the stakes were this high, hesitation could be fatal. Together with Ashley, a woman known for her fierce determination and uncompromising sense of justice, they made their way to Tracy's secluded house. Their arrival was not subtle. They were determined to confront the situation head-on before it escalated beyond control. The atmosphere inside the house was thick with tension, a volatile mix of apprehension and silent accusations. The conversation that was about to unfold held the weight of secrets and imminent confrontation. With every tick of the clock, the air seemed to grow heavier, as though the walls themselves were bracing for the storm that was about to break. Without warning, Jack and Ashley pounded on the door with urgency, their fists echoing in the quiet night. The sharp, insistent knock gave way to a louder intrusion as they flung the door open, their voices booming through the room. "I know you're here, Alan," Jack bellowed, his tone a mix of anger and exasperation that reverberated against the furniture and walls alike. Tracy's heart skipped a beat, a surge of relief mingling with confusion. Her face lit up momentarily at the sight of her friends arriving in the nick of time, yet she quickly masked her emotions with a guise of victimhood. "Why are you here, Jack? How did you know everything?" she pleaded, her tone a careful balance between genuine distress and calculated performance. In that moment, she presented herself as the wronged party, a damsel entangled in a web of deceit. Across the room, Alan appeared unexpectedly. His sudden presence was a shock, yet he managed to maintain a disarming calm. With an air of misplaced benevolence, he explained, "Tracy and I were just talking. We were trying to resolve everything and clear up the misunderstandings." His words, though seemingly conciliatory, carried an undercurrent of something unspoken, a truth that he was not entirely himself in that moment. Ashley, ever vigilant and perceptive, had been scrutinizing the scene with narrowed eyes. Something was off. The man claiming to be Alan did not sit right with her. Her instincts, honed by years of navigating treacherous social waters, told her that this was not the man they once trusted. In a low, determined tone, Ashley cut through the pretense, "Tracy, stay away from him. I know it's not Alan I see here, it's Martin." Her words struck the room like a thunderclap, leaving no room for denial or further obfuscation. The revelation jolted everyone into a sharper focus. For a brief moment, silence enveloped the room, punctuated only by the relentless pounding of the rain against the windows. The air was charged with the raw energy of impending confrontation. Jack's eyes darted between Tracy and the mysterious intruder, his posture rigid with tension. Tracy, caught in the crossfire of her own making, looked torn between gratitude for her friend's timely intervention and the dangerous allure of the secrets she had tried so desperately to conceal. With the intensity of the moment reaching its zenith, Ashley stepped forward, her voice rising in a clarion call for truth. "Come out, Martin. Stop pretending to be Alan. We're not going to let you hide behind lies any longer." Her challenge hung in the air, a direct confrontation that demanded the unmasking of deceit. The atmosphere grew palpably taut as all eyes fixed on the man who had woven a tangled web of lies. Martin, no longer able to hide behind the facade of Alan, hesitated, the defiant light in his eyes warring with the shadows of his own guilt. The pressure of the moment, combined with Ashley's unyielding determination, left him no choice but to step into the harsh glare of truth. The room seemed to shrink around him as he slowly removed the mask of pretense, his features gradually revealing the true contours of his identity. Every second that passed felt like an eternity, a slow march toward a revelation that promised to shatter the delicate balance that had so far been maintained. Tracy's internal conflict was laid bare in that charged silence. On one hand, she was relieved to see her trusted friends arrive just when they were needed most. On the other, she found herself ensnared in the very drama she had hoped to avoid. Her mind raced back to the choices she had made, the secrets she had buried in the hope of protecting those she cared about, and the inevitable reckoning that had now come knocking at her door. The irony of the situation was not lost on her. The wisdom that had once saved her life now threatened to expose every hidden truth. Jack's eyes burned with a mix of betrayal and determination. His loyalty to Tracy was unwavering, yet he could not ignore the growing sense of suspicion that clung to every word Martin had spoken. "We trusted you, Martin. How long have you been deceiving us?" he demanded, his voice trembling with the force of his emotions. The question, simple yet devastating, echoed around the room, challenging the very foundation of their fragile alliances. Martin's response was a hesitant murmur at first, then grew into a reluctant confession. He admitted to his deception, revealing that he had taken on Alan's identity as part of a desperate bid to avert a crisis of his own making. His motivations were shrouded in a complex mix of fear, ambition, and a misguided belief that he could control the outcome of the tangled events that had spiraled out of control. Yet, in exposing himself, he had inadvertently ignited a firestorm of consequences that now threatened to consume them all. Ashley's eyes softened for just a moment. A flash of regret mingling with the steely resolve that had defined her every action. "We can't allow this charade to continue," she said quietly, her voice firm and resolute. "If we're going to face this, we must do it together, without lies or half-truths." Her words were both an invitation to redemption and a declaration of war against the deceit that had infiltrated their lives. As the tension reached its zenith, each person in the room felt the weight of their choices bearing down on them. Tracy, caught between conflicting loyalties, realized that her own actions had played a part in the unfolding drama. The night had become a crucible, a moment of reckoning where the sins of the past could no longer be hidden behind masks and whispered excuses. It was in this charged moment of truth that each character was forced to confront not only the deceptions of others but also the darker corners of their own hearts. The storm outside had not abated, and it served as a fitting backdrop to the inner turmoil that now raged within the walls of that small house. Every flash of lightning illuminated the raw emotion etched on their faces, and every rumble of thunder seemed to punctuate the revelations that were tearing the fabric of their lives apart. In the midst of this chaos, there was no easy escape, no simple resolution that could patch up the fractures that had been exposed. Jack stepped forward once more, his voice steadier now despite the tremor of anger and hurt that underlined his every word. "Martin, your deception has set us on a dangerous path. But if there's any chance to salvage what's left of our trust, you must be honest from this moment on." His challenge was as much a plea for clarity as it was a command to cease the lies. The room, now a battlefield of raw emotions and unspoken regrets, waited in bated silence for Martin's next move. Martin, now stripped of his false identity, could only nod in resignation. His admission of guilt was a small step toward confronting the myriad of consequences that lay ahead. He knew that the road to redemption would be long and fraught with peril, yet there was no turning back now. The truth had been unleashed, and with it, the possibility of healing, or further destruction. In that pivotal moment, as the storm outside began to wane and the echoes of their confrontation reverberated in the still air, each person in the room was left to grapple with the ramifications of their choices. Tracy's wisdom had indeed saved her from a greater calamity, but it had also drawn her into a vortex of secrets and betrayals that would forever change the dynamics of their relationships. The fragile alliances, once thought to be unbreakable, now hung in the balance, threatened by the relentless tide of truth. As the night gave way to the early whispers of dawn, the tension in the room slowly began to dissipate, replaced by a sober understanding that nothing could ever return to the way it was before. In the wake of Martin's unmasking, the group stood at a crossroads, each forced to confront the consequences of their actions and the intricate web of lies that had ensnared them all. It was a bitter reminder that while wisdom might save one from immediate harm, it also had the power to reveal uncomfortable truths that demanded accountability, reconciliation, and sometimes, the painful process of starting over. Thus, in the quiet aftermath of that fateful confrontation, the seeds of a new chapter were sown, a chapter that would test their resolve, redefine their bonds, and ultimately determine whether they could emerge from the darkness stronger and more united than before. The night's events, etched indelibly in their memories, served as a stark lesson. That in the realm of human relationships, truth, however painful, was the only beacon capable of guiding them back to a semblance of light. And so, as the first rays of sunlight crept through the curtains, casting a gentle glow on the remnants of the night's storm, each of them faced the uncertain future with a cautious hope. In the end, it was not the masks they wore or the lies they told that would define their fates, but the courage to confront the truth and the strength to rebuild trust from the shattered fragments of deception. Chapter 2, Fractured Hearts and Damning Proof. A hush fell over the room as Ashley retrieved a small, leather-bound notebook from her coat pocket. Its worn cover bore the faint imprint of a monogram, MR, and the sight of those initials made Tracy's heart pound with a mix of dread and denial. Jack, standing protectively at Tracy's side, glanced between Ashley and the man they had all believed to be Alan. The tension coiled in the air like a serpent ready to strike. Ashley opened the notebook with steady hands, revealing a series of photographs, handwritten notes, and personal receipts. Each piece of evidence was more damning than the last. A photograph with a slip of paper. The first image showed the man in question, his posture, the tilt of his jaw, the familiar arch of his brow, standing beside Martin at a downtown gala. Tucked into the corner of the photo was a scrap of paper with Martin's scrawl, "Alan, remember to cover for me tonight." The handwriting matched Martin's distinctive looping M and jagged T. A receipts ledger. Next, Ashley produced a yellowed ledger page, listing a series of transactions at a locksmith's shop, duplicate key made 4 a.m. followed by the date and time. The serial number on the key matched the spare that Tracy kept hidden under her bedside table, yet it had been used at times when Alan was verifiably in another city. Voice recording. Finally, Ashley pressed play on her phone. A low, distorted voice said, "Tell her you're Alan, play the part, and don't slip up. The Newman fortune depends on it." The voice was unmistakably Martin's, its clipped, controlled tone a stark contrast to the warmth they associated with the real Alan. Each item was presented calmly, clinically, as though Ashley were a prosecutor laying out the state's case. The room seemed to tilt, the walls closing in on Tracy as she stared, wide-eyed, at the mounting proof. "No," Tracy whispered, her voice cracking. "This can't be. You're mistaken." She shook her head violently, as if she could physically dislodge the evidence from the room. "That handwriting isn't Martin's, he wouldn't do this. And that photo, Alan was with me that night. You must be looking at someone else." Jack placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Tracy, look at the handwriting samples you kept from Martin's old journals. They match. And Alan's passport shows he never left Genoa City on that date." His voice was gentle but firm, the voice of someone who loved her and refused to let her drown in denial. But Tracy's eyes filled with tears of frustration and fear. "I don't want to believe it," she sobbed. "I want him to be Alan. I love him, Alan. I've planned our wedding, our life together. I can't accept that it's all a lie." Ashley's expression softened for a moment, her voice low with empathy and warning. "I know this hurts, Tracy. But if you keep insisting he's Alan, you'll only be setting yourself up for more heartbreak. This," she gestured at the notebook and phone, "is the truth. And if you marry him, you'll be legally bound to Martin, a man who's been manipulating you for his own gain." Tracy's tears fell in silent, shuddering streams. She sank to her knees, clutching her own head as if to keep the painful reality at bay. The room spun around her. Jack's concerned gaze, Ashley's pleading eyes, the man standing impassively before them, all converged into a blur of accusation and despair. "Please," Tracy whispered between sobs, "don't make me choose between the truth and my heart." Jack knelt beside her, gently brushing a tear from her cheek. "You don't have to choose alone. We'll help you through this. But you must open your eyes." The man, Martin in Alan's guise, stepped forward, his facade cracking for the first time. "Tracy," he said, voice trembling, "I never meant to hurt you. I did this for us, for your safety." His eyes, dark and haunted, searched hers. "I thought I could protect you from the chaos of the Newman-Abbott feud. But I see now I only dragged you deeper into it." Ashley's anger flared. "Protect her? By lying about who you are? By stealing her trust?" She took a breath, then her voice hardened. "You're a coward, Martin. Hiding behind someone else's name so you don't have to face the consequences of your own choices." Martin bowed his head. The confession that followed was a torrent of remorse, how he'd discovered a plot against Tracy's life, how he'd feared that as Alan she'd be a target, and how, in a panic, he'd assumed Alan's identity to misdirect the real perpetrators. Each word laid bare his desperation, and each only deepened the fissure in Tracy's heart. The room was silent but for Tracy's ragged breathing. Jack stood, offering his hand. "Tracy, come with me. Let's step outside, get some air." He glanced at Ashley, whose expression was a mixture of relief and lingering concern. Together, they guided Tracy toward the front door. As they crossed the threshold, Tracy paused, looking back at the man she thought she knew. "I need time," she said quietly, "to understand why you betrayed me, and why I believed the lies." Her voice trembled, but there was steel in her tone. Ashley followed, closing the door softly behind them. Once outside, Jack wrapped his arms around Tracy, shielding her from the storm both inside and out. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, the night sky a tapestry of dark clouds and distant stars. Ashley stepped back, hands on her hips. "This isn't over," she warned Martin through the glass. "We'll be watching. And if you try anything else, there won't be a next time." Inside, Martin stood alone in the dimly lit room, the notebook and phone on the table beside him, silent witnesses to his downfall. He closed his eyes, the weight of his deception pressing down on him like an anchor. Outside, Jack turned to Tracy. "We'll figure this out," he promised. "No matter what, you're not alone." Tracy nodded against his chest, tears still flowing but her grip on reality slowly returning. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with legal and emotional entanglements. Weddings would be called off, alliances tested, and reputations ruined. Yet in that fragile moment, one truth shone through: she was not powerless. With Jack and Ashley by her side, she would face the chaos, uncover every hidden motive, and reclaim the life she'd almost lost to a monster in Alan's skin. The night's revelations had shattered her world, but from the broken pieces, a new resolve was taking shape. And when dawn came, Tracy vowed, she would stand tall, armed with the wisdom that had saved her once before, ready to confront whatever storms lay ahead.